All right, we're
Whoa, this is
live.
great cover. We're live.
You can get more. I mean, it's
No, no, it's
this can
okay.
go
We're
up to
live now. Do it
this can
live.
go up to 8 hours. So, all right, we're here with Vince Tursi from Night Shift Brewing. He's a brewer with the brewery. For those of you who haven't ever had Night Shift, I suggest that you try and find somewhere near you because they're doing really off the wall kind of brews, but so incredibly balanced and just awesome beer. They're started in 2012, so pretty young brewery, and already in just about 2.5 years went from a, correct me if I'm wrong, a 3,000 square foot space to a 16,000 square foot space,
Yeah, it was
right?
like I think it was like 2,800, and now we're at like 16 and change, 16,000 and change.
That's absurd amount of growth in 2 years.
Yeah, we moved into the new spot, and everybody's initial reaction was like, "We have no idea what we're doing with all this space." And then quickly, it was like 2, 3 weeks later. Now we're like, "Oh man, it'd be really nice if we had more." So I don't even know how we functioned in the old brewery. Like our tap room was smaller than our entire facility at the old space was smaller than our tap room now.
Yeah, I went to the old space and it was cool. It was kind of cozy. You were kind of surrounded
I think
by
that's the nicest
barrels.
descriptor.
Yeah, it had a nice character to it.
Yeah, I would say yeah. Stabby, we got a lot. It was very stabby. It was like in a rundown industrial park. Cool.
I mean, everything but the bathroom was just great.
That's the one thing that we all say we will never miss is the bathroom. There's like a week where like people like all of us just refused to use the bathroom because it was like we were so close to moving the new brewery, we just couldn't deal with it anymore.
Oh,
It was sketchy.
I went, I was there and I asked where the bathroom was and I kind of got like a one of those.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, it was. Well,
There was like one.
I hear the bathrooms are much nicer now.
Yeah, they're much nicer. That is definitely the biggest. What we hear a lot is like, hey, the place is like really nice. You have a lot more taps. There's a lot more parking. And the bathrooms, you have bathrooms. It's like every single person mentions that. There was one stall for like an entire industrial facility. I have no idea how that whole
It
place ran, but
it doesn't feel like there's a murderer hiding behind the toilet or something.
oh, it did. It did. We got that a lot, especially when like the lights for the whole facility would sometimes just randomly turn off. So you'd have to like walk through. It's like a couple 100 feet long of a hallway, and there would just be no lights until like the end when you got to our door. It was just super creepy. But it's not like that now. Now it's like a really nice big warehouse.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't intend on spending 5 minutes talking about the old bathrooms.
It's okay. It was yeah, no, totally worth talking about. That place was
Yeah, well, this is quality. This is quality interviewing skills here, man. Uh, so I guess yourself. When did you start in brewing?
so I started brewing. It was like it's like just over 4 years. It was almost 5 years ago now. And it was on a bet with my next door neighbor. I used to live in a house with like 12 guys, like ultimate college days kind of thing, like Animal House style. And the neighboring house also had that many people, so it wasn't uncommon for like a bunch of people to hang out. So everybody was like splitting up six packs, like, oh, I want to try some of your beer, I want to try some of your beer, I'll trade you. And I can't remember who made it, but it was an Oktoberfest, and I spit it back into the bottle because it was so bad. And there was a comment that was like, "Oh, well, like you can't complain. It's not like you could do much better." Then a drunken bet was spawned that like I probably can do better, and it was like the worst beer I've ever had. The first beer I brewed, but that like lit a fire under my ass to make better beer, and that fire has like only grown stronger. So like every day now is just some sort of like a read up on some like excerpt or like study some book or do something or like try out a new something. Like work with new hops, work with new grains, try out some sort of like a new process or like refine everything. So it's just like a constant uh, journey to like better the beer that's coming out. So it's really nice.
I guess that's from the start. Your growth in brewing was just a drive to create a better beer always.
Always. Yeah. Nothing's perfect. You can always do better.
There you go. That's a good philosophy on life. Not
Yeah.
just brewing.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Take notes. Take notes.
were you were you living in Boston when you about that was 5 years ago when you were?
Yeah. 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 I was living in Alston. It's like a suburb of Boston. They call it the Brooklyn of Boston, kind of. I've heard that before. It's basically where like all of the broke college kids live. It's like a bunch of frat houses and like it's not uncommon to walk down the street and have it be like 12 or 15 people living in a house all going to college, like that kind of area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you? I mean, the home brewing thing has kind of erupted now.
Hmm.
Um, so what? But and same thing with kind of the craft beer movement. I mean, Boston's been different. You guys have a much more established, craft beer scene, local beer.
Yeah.
Um, what
Um,
kind of things were you drinking that was driving you to start home brewing back then?
so back then, I think I was still in the process of getting my mind blown by Allagash White. I feel like that's so many people have that. Yeah. O'Mara, one of the owners, is drinking one right now. Um,
Prove it.
I mean, don't hold it up.
Yes.
Uh, so, like that kind of stuff, and then Cambridge Brewing Company kind of popped up for me, just because it was like a local brew pub, and then that kind of spawned and like Sam Adams was from Boston, um, and so that spawned the whole like, well, like if these guys can do it, and then that's also when like I found out that Pretty Things was contract brewed, so I found out that like all of these other brewers that didn't own a brewery were kind of brewing, and then I stumbled upon the homebrew club, the Boston Word Processors, holla, and then I think they're like 25 or 30 years old now, the club, which is crazy. But yeah, it was more a bunch of other people really being supportive about, hey, you have no idea what you're doing, and we'd like to help you through it, kind of thing.
There
That was
you
pretty
go.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean these homebrew clubs are probably they're extremely important. I think we need to figure out ways to support the local homebrew clubs. I think that brewery should support them. I mean, it's going to be. We have
Yeah,
one down here.
yeah, I think we are actually hosting. Well, we're working out the logistics right now, so don't quote me on this, but I think we're hosting the anniversary party for the local homebrew club, the Boston Wort Processors.
Cool.
Just because all of us here start, like the Rob, Mike, and Mike, the three founders of Night Shift, all started off as homebrewers too.
Right.
It's very tied in with the homebrew roots.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I mean, it's the name Night Shift comes for a reason.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, yeah. You want me to dive into that a little bit?
yeah. Let's
Sure.
do it.
So, and O'Mara, correct me if I get any of this wrong. Yeah, I've got like an editor. O'Mara's sitting right next to me, one of the
You should
founders.
chime in.
Yeah, yeah, you can chime in if you want. Feel free to just holler. He's working on some paperwork right now. So it started off as Rob Burns. He was homebrewing like what 7 years ago or something like that, and started to get really into it. And then he got Mike O'Mara into it, which is one of the other founders. And then they both kind of started like bouncing off of each other and just kind of spurring that want to get better and better at homebrewing. And then the third guy, Mike Oxton, got involved, and they got him involved in homebrewing as well. And then they all ended up living together, and they were brewing so much that all of them had full-time jobs, and they were brewing so much that it actually became like a job, like a night shift for them. Like they would all come home, and whether it was like cleaning or, which is like all that we, as a brewer, you clean like 90% of the time. So they're like cleaning or getting stuff ready or brewing or doing whatever. But they were up until like 1, 2 o'clock on a regular basis at night after working a full-time job. So it just kind of became, like I said, like a night shift for them.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where they were brewing so much and people liked it so much that they were like, well, next logical step is to open a brewery. And here we are.
That's pretty awesome. And the name is literal. It's almost literal. That's
Yeah, we've only done one actual overnight shift here. Uh,
Did they get
and it,
married? Is that why? I mean, I know when you're married, you can't brew overnight.
yeah, no. I mean, we have a lot more people now, so it's like it's a lot easier, and like no one wants to be here at like 4 in the morning brewing. So we try not to do night shifts, but we did one back at the old brewery to try and like recoup a little bit of production time, and just because like we needed to get a beer brewed and fill a 20 barrel tank off of our 2.5 barrel system, so it was just like nonstop brewing for 24 hours. We still do that, but we've gotten the process down a little bit better. But yeah, we've only done one, and I was there for it. And around like I did the 6 to 6, so 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And around the like 3 a.m. spot, it was me and Joe, one of the other brewers, just started like losing our mind, and we were like belting out real big fish,
Yes.
crushing coffee. Yeah, it was a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yes.
you start to lose it a little while, so it's good.
What? How many barrels is your system now?
So we have a 20 barrel system, but it hasn't gotten set up yet. Unfortunately, it's pretty costly to get set up. But we are brewing into four 20 barrel tanks with a 20 barrel bright, two 40 barrel tanks with a 40 barrel bright, which we're using as storage right now. And then we have five 7 barrel tanks, a 7 barrel bright, and two 3 barrel tanks on a well, it's like there's two mash tuns and two boil kettles. So we're brewing into all of those tanks on something that produces like a barrel and a half out of each kettle. So there's like a back and forth. So like while mash tun and boil kettle A are going, mash tun and boil kettle B are like a half hour behind. So you just
Right.
kind of switch back and forth between the two. And we can do about 10 mashes and boils. No, sorry, it's 14 mashes and boils to fill a 20 barrel tank. And we can do that in two 12-hour days. So it's like 24 hours to brew. Yeah. And then the 40 barrel tanks are essentially just blended versions. So we'll do two 20 barrel batches and then blend that for aging in the 40 barrel tank. And right now we have Summer Vice, which is one of our Berliners, aging in there. The
Right.
Berliners just have to age for a long time, so we figured free up a little bit of the stainless. And then we're going to brew into the other one with another blended batch at some point in the near future. So we'll
Yeah,
have.
I thought that was so impressive when I went to the brewery. How many barrels were everywhere? I mean, it was awesome. I mean, it was
Oh my
like,
God, yeah. I think we have like 90 oak barrels that are full, ranging from like whiskey, bourbon, rum, red wine. I think we have what, two kinds of red wine or three kinds? Two kinds of white wine. Uh, yep, Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. At least two kinds of red wine. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. It's crazy. We're all.
how many times can you use the barrel before you lose the?
So there's a point where there's like two terms for barrels. There's oak neutral, which is you get no more flavor of the oak that it's coming from, or wood neutral, I guess, depending if it's not made from oak. And then you also get spirit neutral, so whatever was in there before.
Right.
So the amount of times in the length that whatever is sitting in there before will eventually soak most of that up. But if you're going for red wine, you might get spirit neutral, but the barrel is still usable. So the theoretical use of a barrel is indefinite. It's just the only times that we'll stop using a barrel is if it becomes infected with bacteria that we don't want in there, so like
Right.
bad bacteria, or if it starts leaking like crazy because it's just so old, which has happened to a couple of our brandy barrels. Um, the reason for that is there's like certain rules with certain spirits, like there's certain kinds of whiskey where you have to use the barrel on its first run, and then you can't use the barrel again really for if you're making that same kind of whiskey, so they sell them off. But then with brandy, there's no rules, so you can use it an unlimited number of times. So some of the barrels that we have are like falling apart basically when we get them. They're like just held up enough to do like one fill, and then they start falling apart. So it depends on how old the barrel is, how many times we've used it, how many times it was used before. It's kind of a mishmash of
Right.
if it
It's just
goes
a
bad
matter
or if it falls apart.
of pacing what's going on.
What's up?
It's just a matter of tasting what's going on with the beer in there.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, the connection flipped for a second.
Hey, this is going great compared to what was going on before, man.
Oh my God! It was like what? It was. I think it was actually an hour of technical difficulties.
There was.
Super smooth.
We've been at it since 7. Man. Anybody else in your family in the culinary world?
Uh, no. My mom cooks a lot. But like not your traditional stuff. Like she'll go balls to the wall, like French fine dining kind of stuff, like
Poor
French.
you, man.
Yeah, poor me. And then I come from a big Italian family, and actually, on my dad's side, Carla's pasta. They make like really awesome pasta that serves a bunch of restaurants and like fine dining establishments in the Connecticut area. But other than that, no.
I mean, I know that originally night shift beers were somewhat driven by a culinary.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. So it's less like a bunch of us having um, like chefs or some sort of like a restaurant connection in our family, and more about all of us just being super huge foodies. Like we all love to eat, and we all love a very wide range of food. So that helps. And like, if one person is thinking like, "Oh, peach," another person will be like, "Oh, what if we use apricot and then something else like sub in that flavor
right.
or something like that?" Or like, "Hey, have this really crazy sandwich or this really crazy ice cream or this really crazy mixed drink. Uh, why don't we try and like recreate that in a beer?" That happens a lot around here, actually.
Cool.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I
cool.
mean, you can tell you guys use crazy ingredients in some of your beers, and I think we're gonna probably review some of them a little bit.
Cool.
So I
Yeah.
guess we'll talk about those. I mean, one of them just rings to mind is the hibiscus, which is pretty cool.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
We use
yeah,
hibiscus in two of our beers actually. What? Trying to sneak in. So we use one of the other. Rob was trying to sneak in. Use hibiscus in two of our beers. One of them is JoJo. It's an American IPA, and then we hit it with hibiscus, so it's like hot pink. It's sort of more like a deep pink red in the body of it, and then the head is like a highlighter pink.
that's awesome.
And hibiscus gives it like a flower. It's like a floral berry note that
Yeah,
really complements all the American hops that we loaded up with.
you know,
Um,
there's a hibiscus tree on my like running route. And every time I go by it, I'm just like, ah,
it
it's
smells
awesome.
so good. It smells so good. And then we also do Evervice. It's like our super popular Berliner. It was on. It was well rated on what was it, Rapier or Beer Advocate or something like that. One of those I drink beer and I'm going to rate it websites. It was pretty highly rated on there for a long. I think it still is. And that's kiwi, strawberry, and hibiscus. So it's like a super fruity and then like really nice and floral. And the hibiscus really complements all the berry that you get from the strawberry. It pulls away from a little bit of that lightness from the kiwi. It's all just really complementary. And again, and that's like hot pink as well.
Cool. And it's like we're gonna get into it. That's what I'm talking about. These kinds of kiwi, hibiscus, it's stuff you don't normally see in beers, and I think I love it. I love it. I haven't tried
Yeah.
the Evervice yet. I'm dying to try that beer. Um,
Oh, we just bottled a bunch of it. I'll have to send some your way.
I gotta
Um,
try that thing.
it's
Um,
pretty good.
this is a question. I mean, we're gonna. I guess a little spoiler alert. Next week we're posting. You did a 10 questions for us for the
Yeah.
site. Um, we're gonna post it next week on Monday. Um, but what beers most influenced you to start getting into brewing? I mean, what were the beers that you had that were like, oh man, this is it.
Okay. The first time that I had a sour beer, I think it was. I want to say it was Duchesse de Bourgogne. I feel like I'm totally butchering that name. Um, but it kind of blew my mind that you could have a sour beer like sour just didn't really click. I remember like one of the first breweries that I ever visited just so happened to be Lost Abbey, and I was friends with Brian Fields, one of the brewers there, and he pulled a nail on a sour barrel, and I had it. And my only comment was like, "Oh, it's kind of like warm, flat apple cider," and he's like, "Yeah, I guess kinda," and I kind of just like brushed off sour beers, like it's not my thing. And then kind of as my palate developed, I ran into like Duchess de Bourgogne and Cuvée de Jacobin, like Monk's Cafe, all the like really easy to find sour stuff. And it kind of blew my mind that you could use sour as another flavor component in and of
Right.
itself.
Right.
Um, so I guess there's a combo of like a bunch of different sour beers, and then like Allagash
Pick
White
one,
has all
man.
kinds
I'm
of
gonna
stuff.
pin you down to one.
Yeah.
What if you could have one beer tomorrow or right now? If one could magically appear in front of you. What is it?
Oh man, I when I was out in Bend, Oregon, a couple of years ago, I did a road trip up the Pacific Coast Highway in California. We stopped at a little brewery called Boneyard, and they're expanding right now, and they're supposedly canning their RPM IPA. Uh, Holy crap! That beer is just like it punched me in the face. Like I still remember the second that I smelled it and I drank it, and it was just like a complete sensory overload. That beer is just so good, and it could have just been like a sense of time and place. But I
All
just
right.
remember that being like one of the best IPAs I've ever had. I would love to drink that beer again.
Awesome. Hopefully,
That would be the one where I was like, damn, you can make a beer this good. Yeah, that's a turning point.
they're gonna have to send some your way for giving them that plug. By the way.
Oh, I hope so. Those guys are awesome.
So I guess in your own brewing style, is there any breweries that you look up to? Um,
Yeah, totally. Um, I think as far as creativity and kind of pushing the envelope in a process perspective would be Jester King. They cultivated wild yeast from their own land. They're on a farm in Austin, which I got to visit. It's totally great. If you ever get the chance, it's mind blowing how cool that place is. Um, but they cultivated their own yeast, and then now they use that strain was cultivated on their own land by themselves. Then they cultured it up and then isolated it. But they have their own yeast that's their own, and then they use it for hoppy beers, stouts, and sour beers of all different, like a ridiculous spectrum. And they're doing like cool ship stuff with other wild yeast that isn't that one isolated culture. Um, they just have a really cool yeast program that I think is really unique. Like literally, no one can copy their beer because of how unique their yeast is and how unique that whole process surrounds that. Um, there aren't really a whole lot of other breweries that I know of that are pushing the envelope that hard, and that's
right.
really risky for them to be doing. Like they don't use any commercial cultures at all, which is mind blowing.
Yeah, they've been a part of the site because I mean I look up to them a lot in that regard. I mean they're pushing the envelope.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think there's a complexity to them and brewers like Wicked Weed
yep,
that are just it's just I love the complexity of those beers. I kind of started off with the same with wine,
yep,
and you look for those like real subtle hints of different fruits, different
yeah,
dirt,
yep,
you know, wet
yeah,
towel, and you
yep,
find
yep.
those in these kinds of beers.
Yeah, I think that they're doing things a lot differently than a lot of other breweries are. Like I know that the person who's ahead, I might be messing this up, but the person who runs their barrel program actually went to school for vintner. Like she got a vintner master degree or something like that. Like she's all wine oriented and barrel oriented.
Right.
And then she runs their barrel program, which I thought was really cool. Like they pulled somebody from a field that is directly related, but isn't the field
Right.
that she kind of is comfortable with. So they're pushing her to make better beer using techniques that aren't often used in the beer industry, which is pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
and then if I was to go in like that the same thread, the guy Paul Arney at Ale Apothecary, that dude is the man.
Right.
Uh, all of his stuff touches wood for as much as possible. I think the only time that it's actually in metal is when it's in the boil kettle. Like he mashes in a wooden puncheon and then lauders in a tree that he fell in his own on his land and then uses like branches as like a false bottom.
That's
Just
awesome.
like, and yeah, and then he open ferments everything, and then everything ages in a barrel that's right side up, and then transfers it into a sideways barrel for storage. The dude is just
That's
beyond
awesome.
crazy with his beers, and they're so complex. They're really cool. He does a great job.
Yeah, that's what I like, man. I'm starting to grow out of like I'm not grow out of anything, but I'm starting to grow really into beers that kind of you can taste, you know, like I mean, it's hard to explain. In wines, you can taste the winemaker's hands in the wine.
Yeah,
Beers
yeah,
like you guys is, and like the breweries you're mentioning, there's an identity to to the beer. I mean, there
yeah,
really is. You guys have an identity to your beer.
yeah. And I think that I respect the hell out of a lot of other breweries too. Like Cigar City does a lot of that kind of stuff where
Right.
they really push the envelope. There's another brewery like Tired Hands does that a lot. There's a lot of other breweries out there that are really pushing envelopes, and Cigar City, yeah. I got to meet Wayne once. Super nice guy.
He's the
Um,
nicest guy in the world.
nicest guy. He came out of nowhere and like treated me to an entire day of just like drinking and shuffleboard and whatever at like the drop of a hat. Just the nicest guy. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of other breweries that are pushing the envelope, and I think that the breweries that are doing that and really trying really hard to make beer that's non-traditional and unique, I think it's obvious, especially when it comes out really well balanced.
Right.
Um, and it's a lot more difficult to make that happen than a lot of other breweries let on. Like a lot of breweries do that and it doesn't come across as good. I'm not going to mention any of them. But yeah, no. But a lot of breweries do and they excel really well at it. And like Firestone Walker, perfect
Yeah.
example of a
Well,
brewery that does everything well, which is
right.
mind blowing. Um, but yeah, wherever you look, there's going to be some sort of inspiration. I guess is what it comes down to. But the people that are really busting their ass are really what kind of shine in
Right.
the industry. So
Well, by the way, we have a bulletin alert. I got to make a sound for the next interview,
all
but right
right,
now I'm just going to go ding, ding, ding. All right, so we've got a question on the YouTube page, and we're kind of in that area right now on the interview, so I might as well ask it. It's from
sure.
Edward Jimenez. He says, being that you like experimenting with different ingredients, which do you like best? Or in other words, which ingredient goes best in the type of beers you enjoy most?
Oh man, damn, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
I think that lately I've been experimenting with different pitching rates and different aging times for Brettanomyces. Um, and I think that, perfect example, if you take the same exact base beer and you ferment it with a different amount of Brett, you can get wildly different results at the end of it. So let's say you ferment it 100% with Brett and you ferment it in one, and then in another fermenter, you ferment it with a saison yeast and you dose it with like a little bit of Brett. The Brett character is drastically different, but it's more or less it's the same exact yeast. So it's something that is completely manipulated or completely able to be manipulated based on your input directly. Whereas like hops and stuff like that, there's only so much so that you can kind of do with them.
Right.
But Brett is just like it's like painting on a completely different can. It's like a different medium altogether.
All right.
And trying to get my handle on that has really been a whole lot of fun lately. It's been a blast.
That's what most brewers that use a lot of Brett say. I mean, they say Brett is just. I love the taste of it. I've
Yeah,
never used it in a home brew because I'm scared of what it'll do to everything else I brew. But everyone says it's the most fun thing about brewing is using the Brett because it's something that you can control only a certain amount of, and so you
yeah,
don't necessarily know what the end result's going to be, and it's always going to change. So there really is no end result. Is
yeah.
that
My favorite part about it is it's just like finicky mistress, and trying to get your head wrapped around it. It's just like you can ballpark it, and you can get pretty close results. And in order to like replicate something, your controls have to be insanely tight. So it just pushes you as a brewer to be better when working with that. So it's kind of that, I guess, the same agenda of like you're never going to be the best that you possibly can. So you just got to keep striving to be better than you were before.
That is there any, if there's any kids watching, which you shouldn't be watching, this is about beer. This, this man is giving you great life lessons here. I mean, it's always striving to be better. I mean, look at that. That
Yeah,
is.
dropping some knowledge.
I feel like I'm watching Oprah. I feel like I'm
They
watching
can call me. They can call me
the Brewing Oprah.
the Oprah of brewing. Yeah. Oh God. Oh yeah, that's my nickname now, I guess. Okay. Oprah.
I like it. I'm just busting your chops, but I like it.
Yeah. She's a powerful woman. I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, if you had Oprah money, would you still be brewing? I'm sure you would.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's all I would be
I'd
doing
be giving
probably.
people free cars though.
That what?
I'd be giving people free cars though, right?
There you
I
go.
had Oprah money.
Here's a car, and there's bottles of beer in the trunk. There you go. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Do you have a? Since now we're on the ingredients, we've gotten a great question from the viewers. Do you have a general philosophy on your brewing style, or on brewing in general? Is there a, I guess you yourself, and then is there one that Night Shift kind of has, an identity for Night Shift brewing, as far as a philosophy is concerned?
Oh man. Omera, do we have a general philosophy? Be weird. I guess be weird. Yeah.
There
Be
you
weird.
go.
Sorry. No, it's not even that our philosophy is to live outside the box, like exist outside of all these traditional beer styles, because we're brewing a traditional Pilsner. Like, it is 100% traditional. Like, water profile, we got floor malted grains, like, we're using 5% Munich, sods even, like the hops are traditional. The only thing that we like jazzed it up with was like a little bit of Huel Malone, which is like a melony hop, but I feel like that's a perfect example of our idea. I guess, damn, I'm really trying to summarize this and I'm doing a terrible job. All right, give me like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, think outside the box. And like, there's nothing wrong with a traditional beer, but that doesn't mean that you can't improve upon that.
But you got to be a master of the traditional beer before you can start trying to improve on it. I mean, like you're saying, you're using traditional water profiles, using traditional ingredients. You've got to. I think there's something with a lot of new breweries where we were talking about earlier where they fail when they're trying to do things because they don't. I don't think they understand the traditional, like when they're doing a bock. You've got to know how to do a bock beer before you start tinkering with it. When you're brewing a stout, brew a great stout and then mess with it. I mean, you guys, when you drink a Night Shift beer, you get, we're going to get into the Lechador, but you get that it's a phenomenal milk stout.
Yeah.
And then it was tinkered with, but you've got to have the great base underneath it. And so I guess that's what you're getting at. I mean, you think outside of the box, but you've got to have a well-grounded, understanding of the traditional style and how to get there.
Yeah. I feel like as far as that goes, you can't build a great beer that's outside of the box unless you have a sturdy base. So a lot of what we do here is crazy, but the math, the science, the basics, all of that is down pat, and we're just building upon that. So it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we can't brew all Cascade Pale Ale, because we could.
Right.
But that's not fun for us, and we could go out and buy it from someone that's doing a better job of it. Not to say that we couldn't do a great job, but like Sierra Nevada is killing the game as far as like an all Cascade Pale Ale goes. I mean, I know that's just a fact. So it's not in our best interest to do something like that. It's in our best interest to give the people something that they can't find somewhere else and to kill it.
Yeah.
Um,
How much of that goes into thinking when you're creating a recipe? I mean, how much of it is I want to brew this, so I'm brewing it, versus I think this is what a lot of other people will like.
it's equal parts both, I would say. Like we just did, it was so weird. The Havana, it was a cucumber, mint, and lime beer, and it was literally just Rob, the one of the founders, the brewmaster here, was drinking a mojito, and he was like, "Damn, this is really good, but get drunk." And I would love to have this as a beer. Uh, and that's like what a lot of our ideas come from is like, I don't know, you'll eat something or you'll drink something, you'll get some sort
Right.
of inspiration. Like, there's no real reason that that can't directly translate into the medium that is beer,
Sure.
or something like that. And that the Havana one was equal parts. I haven't really had anything like this, and people would totally drink this because I think it's good.
Sure.
So,
Sure. I know in the beginning, I read somewhere there was weekly beer tastings. Like you guys are trying like a million different beers a week. Is
oh
that
my
still
God,
happening?
yeah, I would say. Uh, sorry, my friends are watching as well, and they're asking questions. I would say we don't. It's less like a weekly thing, and more like, hey, I had this beer, and you guys really need to try this because I was inspired by X, Y, and Z about this beer, or
Right.
hey, I heard about this new brewery, and we need to really try their offerings because we need to get a feel for what these guys are all about. Um, so I wouldn't say it's like a weekly thing, but it's a regular thing. And it's more like every day or so, like we'll crack something. And be
Sure.
like, hey, like, what do you think about this or whatever. And a lot of us homebrew as well, like still. So
Right.
it's bringing that in of like, hey, I thought that this would be a good idea, but I wasn't really sure how it would pan out. So I gave it like a trial run at home. And that's just a lot cheaper than doing like a trial run here.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to actually we interviewed Wayne on the site. Wayne Wambles on the site. They don't even have a pilot system anymore.
no.
I mean, I was like, I was like blown away.
Yeah.
He's like, can you
Oh,
imagine me piloting 500 gallons of really bad beer?
that'd
So
be, that would be
he's
terrifying. That being said, we do that still here.
yeah.
Uh, and it's terrifying every time. But it's terrifying right up until we get into it, and then it's like, oh, okay. Well, based on like these other beers that we've done, or based on these other times that we've used this ingredient or that ingredient, or we know that like this combination of things should work theoretically, something like that. Um, you get a lot more confident as time goes on. So I can totally see
Sure.
it, especially like the guys in Star City not eating one. But like right now, our 7 barrel tanks, which were our previous production tanks, are now our pilot batches. So we're doing like 200 some odd gallons, depending on how full we're filling the tanks, of a beer that we have no idea, like Havana. We have no idea how cucumber, mint, and lime are all going to interact. Like we have a general idea, but we don't exactly know. So it's
Sure.
kind of like pinpointing that and tweaking it right up until it's ready. Um, Man, yeah, I don't know what we would do if we didn't have like some sort of a way to like express ourselves like that and do pilot batches all the time.
Yeah. It seemed to me like it would be completely nerve-wracking. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
now another thing I was really impressed by. I mean, you guys are producing small batch, for all intents and purposes, beers in a town that is extremely well established with like these monsters, like you said, Sam Adams, Harpoon. Every restaurant you go to has got 3 or 4 tap panels just with Sam Adams, 3 or 4 tap panels with Harpoon. Um, and so it's amazing to see that a brewery of your size um, is not only competing but is growing at the rate you guys are growing. I
yeah. We're
mean,
growing at a crazy rate right now.
yeah, and so I guess it might be an easy answer, but what does it take for a small brewery to establish itself in a in a city where I guess I'm just really impressed by it. I mean, how much room is there for small breweries in these kinds of cities? I mean, look, Miami, we've got one production brewery right now. The
Mhm.
second production brewery just started brewing. So right now, I mean, you can come in here and brew the shittiest beer in the world, and you're still going to have space in the market.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like,
how?
well, with Boston, there was already a really big craft community. I mean, a lot of the stores around here were stocking craft stuff and stuff that was a little bit more off the wall. But this was like 5 years ago when the homebrewing scene was like really big. And because the homebrewing scene was really big here, people had this thirst for something that was different. And that was it just kind of pushed everybody to like, oh, cool, like I can always get Tim Adams or Harpoon or whatever.
Right,
And I'm not trashing on those guys because there's something nice about being able to just go in and get like a Harpoon IPA wherever you
right,
go. Um, it's a little taste of home, but people want options. People want variety, and so as big as those guys are, they don't. It's harder for them to do some of the stuff that we do because they have this really big brand to uphold that's like always consistently doing X, Y, or Z, and we are never consistently doing anything. I mean, like the beer is consistently good, but and like the recipes are consistent batch to batch, more or less. Like we'll tweak them a little bit, but
right.
our consistency is in our inconsistency, I guess, as far as like what beers we have out on the market at any given time. We have a couple flagships, but even those have some sort of rotation. Um, so I feel like it's the fact that we are so small that we are more flexible and more agile than a lot of those bigger breweries where they can't brew like 100 barrels, which is like what is it, like 3,000 gallons, quick math, something like that. Yeah, 3,000 gallons of something that they've never made before. That's a terrifying
Right,
amount of beer. We could do
right.
200 gallons of that. We could sell that in a heartbeat.
Sure.
But it's harder for them to do it because of their size. And they're tied into all these distribution chains where, like, how do you split that up? And how do you know which markets it's going to sell best in? And we're self-distributed, so it's like,
Right.
hey, do you want this? No, okay, cool. We'll try the next bar.
I was just going to ask you that. You guys are still self-distributing.
Oh yeah, for as long as we can feasibly keep that on. There's a
They don't let the brewers do that down here.
Really, they don't let breweries do that there.
No, because everything they do down here in Florida is trying to kill the breweries.
Yeah, I heard about the growler thing. That's crazy. They won't even let you guys do growlers at the breweries.
It's the 64-ounce growlers. So
That's
Cycle Brewing in downtown St. Pete said, "Here's your 64-ounce growler," and they taped two of their 32-ounce growlers together. And showed them separately. And the people.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, you gotta
Yeah,
have a
I
sense
mean,
of humor when you got people trying to kill small business down here like that.
well, I mean, yeah, the Massachusetts makes it really easy for us, and so does the town of Everett. They were really, really, really awesome, and we wouldn't be where we are today if the laws in Massachusetts weren't as favorable for craft brewers and for like nano breweries specifically,
Right.
as far as pouring, growlers, bottles, whatever you could do, self-distribution, on-site pours, because I mean, that's where we're able to bring people in, get them to be a part of our experience. Like we're allowed to have a tap room, we're allowed to sell full pours,
Right.
we're allowed to keep people here and give them something more than it's not just a beer, it's an experience, it's a life. We're touching you in more than just a beer. We're like sharing what we're doing with you, and
Right.
we're trying to push that experience on you in more than just one way. We're trying to get like an all immersive experience.
Right. I noticed that when I was there. I mean, you guys. There's a bunch of you guys in the brewery on a Saturday when I was there. I mean, it was like a bunch of the employees and answering all the questions, walking people around, showing people everything. Do you guys see that as something really important? You got to make sure that is it for educational purposes? Is it you think people enjoy being able to ask you guys questions? Is it you just want to see people's reaction to what you're producing?
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's equal parts the fact that you would want to ask those questions if we went to a brewery, and equal parts wanting to keep that experience as immersive as possible. Um, that and like we all just kind of hustle. Like we all have insane work ethic, And that definitely translates into like, hey, sometimes you got to come in and bust ass on a Saturday,
Right.
or like a Sunday. There's not really now. We're at the point where our production schedule is constant. So again, we're not really in the like night shift mode yet, but we are. Our production hours are 7 days a week now.
Yeah. Well, I called you the other day, and you were on your day off, and you were in the brewery.
Yeah. So like days off here are more or less like, hey, so you're gonna come in and do like light work, and it's like, all right, cool, yeah. But it's good because like we have this insane family environment where you want to be. Like we all have fun, we all laugh all the time. None of us have. It's like the best work environment I've ever had, and all of us say the same thing. We
That's
keep it light,
awesome.
fun. It makes a 16-hour day not deadly.
That's awesome. I mean, there's not many people that can say that, and it's crazy that every time you talk to a brewer, um, even anybody, an employee in a brewery, even down, owner, brewer, I mean, everyone, they
Yeah,
love what they do. They love going into the office.
yeah.
That's
Essentially, my office is like a playground. My office is a bar, I guess.
You get to be creative. I think that's what it is, right? I mean, you guys get full reign to be creative.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say one thing that people definitely misinterpret is how much we all drink. Um, it's really not that much, to be completely honest with you. Like, I definitely drink less now that I'm working in a production brewery, just because, I mean, like, a 1 ounce sample a couple times a day just to make sure
Right.
the tank is right or something like that. It doesn't add up. But because you're trying so many different things and your palate has to be like kind of at its peak a lot of the time, beer delivery.
Look at
Uh,
that.
it makes it a lot more difficult to just like drink all the time. If that makes sense.
What is
Um,
that? What were you just given?
this is Jefferson. We have it's a double IPA series, and so it's like our presidential series, and it's we're gonna name all of them after people in power that really made a big difference in American history, and it just so happens that a majority of those will be presidents that kind of really made a big impact in one way or another, not necessarily brewing. But this one, so the first one that we did was Washington, fitting George Washington was the first president.
Yeah,
Second one that we
makes
did
sense.
was Jefferson, and then this one is yeah, this one's Jefferson. It's just a big double IPA that we switch up the hop schedule on. And the malt bill stays more or less the same. We might tweak it a little bit, but it's more or less the same malt bill. Nice and dry with like a really nice, robust foundation that we can balance a ton of different hop characters off of if we really need to.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool for people. I guess I'm getting text messages as we go. Um, looks these questions are coming into my. People are texting me. Um, it's cool to think of your guys' thought process when you're home, when you're brewing. Making that malt bill so you can support the mass amount of hops. I mean, it makes sense, but I'm sure there's people out there that are benefiting from listening to you talk about these kind of thought processes as you're going into the ingredients.
Yeah,
Um,
I
which
mean we don't
actually,
we
yeah,
try to shy away from like keeping the same malt bill and changing up the hop bill. There's only like two beers that we do that with. Most of our IPAs actually are completely different from the get-go. Like even the water profile is different for each IPA most of the time. We have like a general idea of where we're kind of shooting for, but I mean if we want one to be more bitter or more juicy or more floral or something, or we want like more biscuit malt in there, or we want it to be a little sweeter, or we want a little bit more roast, or something like that. The hop bill changes for every single beer, which is unique, not specifically to us, but unique to a lot of brewing on like a smaller scale.
cool. We got another question before we move on. Wait, ding ding ding. There we go. All right. What's been the hardest part of getting to where you are now? And what do people underestimate about the job of being a brewer at a production facility?
Hardest part of what I would say that this goes for not all of us, but a majority of us. Hardest part was deciding that we were comfortable to give up our comfortable job, our like cushy jobs, and do this. And getting used to the fact that you are going to be covered in sweat and grime and hops and beer, and it's going to be miserable some of the time, but you got to be able to like laugh your way through it. Because at the end of the day, you're creating something. You're an artist, more or less. Your medium is just something different than most.
Right.
And then the biggest hurdle would be. So I guess yeah, that was the hardest part. Was kind of getting used to the fact that this is a labor of love.
And then what do people underestimate most about, if you can do it like in a sentence, what do people underestimate most about working in a production facility?
How much you're going to bust your ass. Seriously, what we do is a lot of hard work, a lot of the time. It's definitely a blue-collar job. Like, you clean, you haul stuff around, you are covered in steam, you're sweating like crazy all the time. It really doesn't let up. Like, especially if you're on a brew day, or you've got to clean a tank, or you've got to clean like 3 tanks back to back and do a bunch of transfers, and there's always something that you need to worry about. It's never smooth sailing. It's just being able to navigate your ship under rough waters.
Sure.
That's what people underestimate a lot. They think it's a lot easier than it is.
Right.
Doing this is a lot of hard work, but it pays off in the end.
You get to go into work and enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all laugh all day. So
that's not many people can say that. So you guys are blessed in that regard.
yeah.
Is there any link between just generally? Is there any link between the person you are choosing to name these beers after, the beers we're talking about, most of them being presidents, and the style of beer or the ingredients used in that beer? Is there any kind of like thinking going back and forth there?
For the presidential series?
Yeah.
We all kind of brainstormed like a couple different really influential people that were kind of revolutionary in what they were doing to form America as it stands today. So unfortunately, no, it's kind of picking names out of a hat, but we do have a couple that, for one reason or another, the ingredient that was used ties roughly to that person. So I don't want to give really any of that away, but some of them in the future will have a very direct tie as far as like the name and the story behind that.
Cool.
But I'm not really sure which ones or when they'll come out or what order. But more or less, no, just picking names out of a hat.
Cool.
To be honest, it's kind of lame, but whatever.
All right, we're getting into your beers now. Now that we're talking about the beers, but
yeah.
You guys have a world-class rating on Beer Advocate. I mean, I don't know if you guys actually pay attention to that.
We do. All of us literally just were like, oh, dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, you do. So, I mean, now that you know that, does that add any pressure to you? Do you care?
Nah.
Just gotta do what you gotta do.
Nah, just doing what we do.
You got there without knowing you were getting there, so you might as well keep going, right?
Yeah, right? I don't know. I feel like if we got there now, it's weird to change. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, check it out, man. 96, I think.
Text Rob.
96 out of 100.
Damn.
It's pretty damn good.
Well, you know what? I'm shooting for 100, so.
There you go, man. There's that Oprah nugget.
That Oprah nugget, yeah. Sliding it right in there for you.
What are you most proud of brewing?
What am I most proud of as far as brewing?
Yeah. What have you brewed that you're most proud of?
Oh, man. The stuff that's been coming out lately has really been killing it. I would say it falls like based on style. Like, I was really proud of Luchador. It's a Mexican milk stout, roughly based off of like, I love horchata. I love horchata. Like, it's a little unhealthy how much I love horchata. So it's based off of like, I really wanted to make something that I could drink that embodied that and kind of took the soul of that, and I feel like I nailed it with Luchador, and I'm really proud of that one.
You did nail that one. That Down here we've got. Okay, keep going to cigar. It's like I'm plugging Cigar City. This is not their interview. We've got Hunapu,
Yeah.
and so you get up in the morning at 4 in the morning to wait in line for this beer, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to try another Mexican style stout. I tried that beer and I was blown away. I mean, I had to pay an extra like $40 for my luggage on the way home to stuff them in my bag. So damn you for that. um, my wife's looking at me like, why did our luggage bill go up so much? Oh, because you stuffed 2 bottles of beer in the bag, or whatever, how many beers I.
That's
So
awesome.
that beer's amazing. I mean, can you walk? And I know a lot of people that are on the beer trading world and have talked about this beer a lot. Um, can you go into a little bit of the thought process behind coming up with that beer?
Yeah, totally. Um, so horchata is a milk-based drink. It can either be rice milk or almond milk, but either way, it's milk-based. So you have this really creamy base that everything kind of sits on. And then as far as like a milk stout goes, I mean, obviously you got to have chocolate in there, so it's not directly horchata, but horchata is basically almond milk or rice milk. Um, Cinnamon, sometimes a little bit of vanilla, um, and then it sometimes has a little bit of like a peppery note to it. Um, so as far as La Trattoria goes, I wanted to layer it with peppers, but I wanted the dextrins more from the peppers than I wanted the flavor of the peppers. So the dextrins would help add to the mouthfeel and keep that really robust profile, along with like high mash temps and the lactose would really keep it as like a really full, chewy beer.
It's
Uh,
really yeah.
the basis was just build a really dank stout that was really chewy with like a lot of oak character, and then layer on top of that a little bit of lactose to bring it up to like the milk level, and then on top of that layer a little bit of that pepper to bust the mouth feel out a little bit and give a little bit of that more like Mexican feel to it, as far as like the flavor of the pepper goes, but that
Sure.
dissipated a little bit. So based off of that, I had that chew that I was looking for, with the sweet, creamy note, and then it was just the cinnamon and the vanilla layered on top of that a little bit, and then the nutmeg is not traditionally used in horchata, but when it is, it's bomb. Uh, and so I layered in a
Horchata
little bit
expert.
of the nutmeg just to keep the cinnamon as less of a one note and more complex. The nutmeg was more of like a flavor modifier on everything else, and then the vanilla was like a really that was a simple like we got to throw vanilla beans in there because when you taste milk chocolate, most of what you're actually tasting is vanillin, the main compound in vanilla. So that really would just like bust out a little bit more of that cream profile, and really keep the chocolate really nice and smooth. And the malts that we used were all super smooth chocolate. I was totally going for milk rather than dark chocolate.
Right,
Uh,
and that came through. It was. I mean, everything you're saying, you hit it. So how much? I mean, like everything you're talking about, creating those aspects of the beer. How much research goes into these ingredients to realize what's going to happen? I mean,
every beer that I've ever brewed before. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of it's totally like a cop out answer, um, but every beer that I've ever brewed before has taught me something, and then using that like spitball of knowledge, that like snowball that's just kind of growing now, has kind of pushed like everything that I've ever done, as far as like the next beer and the next beer and the next beer. Um, so yeah, I guess it
that's
was
the beer you're most
more
proud of.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's that one, and then I've got a couple IPAs coming out. Like I've got one coming out with Beard. He's a brewery out of Connecticut. We're launching it on Friday.
You guys,
Re-fermented on pineapples and clementines.
I
Pretty
saw
good.
that. I saw that on your. Where did I see that? You guys are promoting that already.
Yeah, I think we Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We got that out, and then I'm working on a beer.
Uh-oh. We lost him. gonna be a second. Sorry about this, guys. He's gonna come right back.
Okay. Sorry.
All right.
All right. Sorry. No,
It happens.
using the router and apparently it reset itself. So sorry.
It's all good. So, where are we at?
Ah,
Yes.
so
So,
we've got an IPA coming out with Beard out of Stonington, Connecticut. Aaron's a great guy, just really knows how to like layer malt with hops. Really awesome balance every time. Super juicy IPAs. If you're ever in Connecticut, you need to go check that place out. And then I'm working on another beer with the Bizzle Brothers up in Portland. And that's going to be a mango ginger 100% Brett fermented IPA.
oof.
And the pilot batch, going to tweak the last of it and add the mango Saturday. And then we should have that out around Portland in like 2 weeks after that or something like that.
Cool. So, what
Yeah.
are those kind of the collaborations that stick out, or is there, I guess, is there a collaboration in the past that kind of stuck out to you as well? This was probably the coolest thing I've done so far. And then going in the future, is there one brewery that if you can collaborate anywhere in the world with, do you know who that would be?
Oh man, if I could collaborate with anyone in the world, Tommy Arthur from Lost Abbey. Uh, I would say, dude is like the nicest guy I've ever met. And Lost Abbey was the big jumping point of when I went up and visited. It was like the first brewery I ever visited. They had the widest range of things I'd ever seen coming out of one brewery. They were pushing so many limits. Um, they were they're really good at what they're doing, and they're really good at consistently pushing their barrel program and their sour program. I'd love to work with them. But as far as other collaborations, I worked with Whirlpool was an in-house. It was just like a couple of us bouncing ideas, and then that's our like really hot selling pale ale, super juicy, super like mango peach craziness. Um, yeah, that's the like in-house, I would say. Other collaborations. Who else have we done? Oh, we did a pretty awesome. Well, you guys did a pretty awesome collaboration before I joined in with Noda. It was awesome. They're a small little brewery in North Carolina, right? They're in North Carolina. They're not so small anymore, but it was 100% Brett fermented golden ale, re-fermented with white wine must, and then aged in white wine barrels.
What was that one called again? That had a cool name. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, stop collaborating. Listen.
Yes, yes.
They made like a crazy music video for it. That thing is hilarious. They can do balls.
Yeah. What would you say is Night Shift's specialty style? I mean, everything you guys do is You do it really well. Like I mean, I don't mean to suck up. I mean, if you guys sucked, I would tell you. Or you probably wouldn't be interviewing you. But if you could hang your hat on one style of beer that you guys do really well, what is it?
Um, I think,
Better than the rest.
yeah, we're crushing pale ales and sours right now. Uh, we do sour beers really well, especially barrel aged sours. They have a lot of complexity, which is really nice. We do a lot of blending. I'll scratch all that. Our blended beers, our barrel aged blended beers, I'm a huge fan of those. We end up geeking out and pulling a bunch of nails and sitting around for like way too long, blending like tiny little like 2, 3, 5 milliliters of one and then a couple of another, and then figuring out this like weird blend. It's like the most fun days. There's like a point though after all of that where all of us like need to take a nap. Uh, but those are definitely. I think that is where in that program, like coming forward, we've learned a lot based on what we've done, and going forward, our barrel aged blended stuff is just phenomenal. We have certain barrels that we're using for certain points, like some are a little roastier than others, some are a little bit more like lemon head sour, some are a little bit more like a complete, like a robust sour. Some are a lot smoother, some have like more Brett, less Brett. We have a bunch of beers in the works that are going where whatever we end up doing with them, we'll have a lot to work with off of like a potential blend. So those going forward are definitely going to be where we're going to start shining a lot more.
I can't wait to try those.
I'm really excited.
I cannot wait to try those. So I want to talk about a couple. What was the inspiration behind the art series?
Combined one more time.
The art series.
Art series. That was so Rob started that when it was just the three guys, and it was his need to be able to express himself in a way that didn't necessarily tie him down to ever having to make that beer again. And so now though it's pretty funny though because like it started off as we will just number it art one, two, art number one, art number two, art number three. And then now, and we were like, well, we won't name it. If we don't like it, we won't name it. But it's really funny because like now all of our art beers are named. Like the last like, Omera, it's like we're like 8 or 9 in a row that have named. Yeah, it's like 20 or 21, and then every single one past that, we've just been like, damn, it started off as like maybe it'll be good and it's excellent and we totally want to brew this again. So the art beer started off as a way for us to be able to express ourselves without ever having to tie down to having to rebrew that again if it didn't totally fit the bill. There have been like 2 that we named and then later we're like, well, and then morphed it into something else. But yeah, the art series is just a way for us to be able to express ourselves and flex our creative muscles without getting tied down to anything.
Who came up with the idea for the Farmer's Duel? That sounds incredible.
It's pretty good. I wanted to experiment and figure out. So I took 2 different barrels, brewed the exact same saison base, pitched the exact same amount of yeast in each barrel with the exact same volume of beer. One was a red wine barrel, one was a white wine barrel, and then I added the exact same volume of Brett, but 2 different strains. So the white wine barrel got a different strain of Brett than the red wine barrel got. And that was the only difference aside from the barrel itself. So the white wine barrel and the red wine barrel were 2 separate entities. And I figured, I know roughly based on pitching rates and volume how each of these should turn out. And then I pulled the nail on one and was like, damn, that is a ton of white wine. Oh, and there were also 100% Nelson Sauvin, so like a really nice white grape note to them. And then I pulled the nail on the other one, and I was like, damn, that's really good too. But it was complex in a different way. Like the red wine barrel was way more tannic, way more oak, way more of that like robust Brett character. And then the white wine barrel was a lot smoother, a lot sweeter, a lot more crisp. But both of them were like bone dry. And I was like, and I blended them both together, and it blew my mind. And then that's what the Farmer's Duel came out of. It was 2 dueling bread strains, 2 dueling barrels, but the same beer. So 2 farmers that are dueling, more or less.
That sounds so good. I mean,
it's pretty. Yeah, I'll have to send. All right, so I got a list going. So a bottle of Farmer's Duel, everybody.
I'm not going to say no to that ever.
Okay.
That's not where I was going with that, but I'm not going to say that. No, wait, that's exactly where I was going with that. All right? Exactly. That's the point I was getting to.
Okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. Oh man. So, all right. So we're reaching the point where I want to kind of get to a global perspective on the boom of this craft beer industry right now.
Okay.
Um, I figure there's no one better to get a pulse on that than somebody whose brewery just grew 8 or 9 times in size. What do you think it is that is dry? Well, just in square footage. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Uh, what do you think is the driving force, if you had to guess, that is pushing this? Is it strictly people want choices, or is it
Uh,
or
you know,
is it
we've talked about this before, and I think that it's a combination of things. I think it started off with the age of the internet and the fact that people realized that they have more choices, knowledge is more easily accessible. People can go out and they can find out that hey, it doesn't have to just be this way. I mean, the reason that like the big three, like Bud Miller, Coors, the reason that those guys all were so prevalent was because prohibition, and they were so big before and during prohibition. Well, not, but they totally were during prohibition. That they were able to, yeah, that they were able to recover way faster than everybody else. And then Anheuser-Busch just pumped money after money, like dollar after dollar after dollar after dollar, into becoming this widespread, prevalent. Everybody drinks lagers. Everybody drinks like a smooth American lager. And people forgot kind of what it was like. And then there was like a big craft boom in the 80s, and people were like, hey, that's cool. And then everything kind of freaked out with like the tech bubble and everything. And then now people are realizing that the homebrewing scene is getting bigger than it was before. Homebrewing scene has just consistently been growing. And I think that it's a combo of technology, access to knowledge, and the fact that people are used to wanting more. And then the whole locavore movement that's been going on forever. Like people just
farm
want
to
to be able
table?
to support local. People don't want to be supporting these really big companies where it's like a mystical figurehead that they're kind of paying to, and they're not really sure what their return is. People
Right.
are more willing to spend the extra dollar to get a better quality good than they were before. If
Sure.
that makes sense.
Is it kind of riding the coattails of the culinary farm to table, eat local, or is it
Dude,
it
big
all kind
time.
of goes together?
If that wasn't happening, and if the whole wine culture hadn't been as prevalent as it was, um, beer wouldn't be where it is today, and I could definitely say that liquor wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for that like really big push of people being used to the fact that it's you can get higher quality goods for slightly more money, and it tastes way better. So your experience
Right.
decreased tenfold for just a slight amount more, and then a slight amount more over that, and a slight amount more over that. So you can
Sure.
get higher quality goods for a slightly better price, and because like the overall experience, like your life is improved versus just that one experience.
Well, it's amazing, even in this, like the economy, the way it is. I was reading a report the other day that you know, in the economy, like, as the economy has done this, somehow people have maintained a level of I want these craft beers, liquors, high quality wines, and our generation is just like screw the economy. I want like good quality local things.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, I think that it's people are valuing life a little bit more. Also, due to the whole like age of the internet thing, like you can just see that there is more to worry about than like weird little knickknacks and doodads that like people were blowing their money on all the time before. And there's like a whole lot of the like DIY stuff going on. Technology's getting a little bit cheaper based on like dollar amount that you spend versus your salary. And I think that as all of these like Generation X and Generation Y kids are growing up, they want higher quality goods, and they've become so used to and accustomed to that that they're willing to maneuver their lifestyle around being able to make that still happen. And whether it be, you know, I drink like 4 craft beers a week. Uh, I have 10 friends, right? So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me drinking more beer every week, but it has things to do with me showing my friends that their options are wider and better and more prevalent than they thought previously.
Right.
So it's like a virus.
And something, yeah, I mean, it's something like there's something to be said for that because I think that, and it's something I've written about on the site is, there's almost, before this kind of boom where everyone was starting to drink craft beer. It was always the joke was always the beer, gets the people going. What's the PC word? Gets the pants down. And then now it's become the beer is something that's going to bring me together with my friends. We're going to talk about this. It's something like I actually drink and say, "Oh, do you taste that? Do you get this?" And have like it's just bringing people together. And I think our generation has a lot more is putting a lot more emphasis on that maybe than the prior generations.
Yeah, I think that it's also beer drinking has gone from some sort of like I want to say like a necessity during like sporting events and like it's like a backyard barbecue and you're just drinking to get drunk. People are drinking for taste now because they've realized that, oh my God, my beer doesn't have to taste like next to nothing. Like my beer doesn't have to taste like water. Like I can enjoy when I'm drinking. And when you do that, you don't end up getting as drunk, especially if you're like in a social circle and you're sharing beer with friends.
All right.
I don't think before drinking beer used to be about getting drunk. Now drinking beer is about experiencing the liquid that's in front of you.
Sure.
And I think that big shift was a big push for why craft beer is making this like really big uprise. It's like people want to taste what they're drinking, they want to experience it, they want to share it with people. It's not a solitary thing anymore. And beer is so different no matter where you go. Like
Right.
the pale ale that I get in Kentucky is drastically different than the pale ale that I get in Washington D.C.
Yeah, it's amazing you're getting regional styles.
Totally.
It's kind of it might sound cheesy, but it's kind of like we're building a terroir. Like I mean, you've got the southeast is the IPAs down here are completely different than the IPAs in California, completely different than the IPAs up in the northeast. I mean, it's amazing how regional taste buds are forming a somewhat of a terroir. I mean, are you noticing that as you're trying different breweries out and as you guys are thinking, hey,
100%. So there's like the SoCal IPA, and then there's like the NorCal IPA, and it depends on like the level of dankness versus the level of juice that you're getting out of there. And then New England is making a name for itself, and I'm not gonna lie, it's mostly like through big guys like Hill Farmstead and The Alchemist. They're making these ridiculously juicy, just like it's a juice bomb, and there's so much flavor and so much character in it that you're not getting in all these other IPAs, but it's virtually the same recipe. It's just the level of tweaking and the method of which you're using that hop and where you're using it in your process. And it's just so much different no matter where you go. And I think it has a little bit to do with regional terroir and a little bit to do with these guys are doing something and our scene isn't as developed here, so I have room to tweak it.
sure.
And I can just build off of that. So it's more people taking building blocks and building something bigger.
Sure. I mean, just the fact that we can talk about regional terroir and beer, I think is a huge. I was just thinking, it just hit me. It's like the fact that we're having this conversation and mentioning terroir 3 times in the last 2 minutes. We're talking about beer. I think it's a huge step forward for what beer is becoming, and then what it's going to become. I mean, as you guys continue to research how Brett reacts in different barrels, and like you were saying in the beginning of us talking, this is not an interview; it's more of a conversation. It's like the boundaries are limitless, and
Yeah.
and that's exciting. I mean, you're living it, I'm watching it, but it's got to be super exciting for you guys to be on the cusp of all that.
I think that too is like kind of why we all love the job so much. It's because we don't limit ourselves. We try not to limit ourselves at all. But I mean, obviously there is some limitation. But I feel like standing on the frontier and really pushing boundaries is what gets us all really jazzed and really excited. And that's what kind of keeps the fire lit under all of our collective asses. It's just like, how are we gonna keep pushing? Like, if we keep pushing, a year ago, what we were brewing is drastically different than what we're brewing now, and it's because we're more
Sure.
comfortable with pushing the boundaries, and the boundaries are a little bit further out, so we have more room to work with. The
Sure.
further that we push those out, the more room that there is for everyone to work with, the bigger that the scene gets. Right now, there is no ceiling, and that's great. We'll see when
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's amazing that it's only this much percentage of the beer consumed in the country still, versus, so it's like there's all this whole gap that can still be filled,
Yeah, and
and
we're
you
ebbing
guys are like
away at that.
responsible for making people fill that gap.
We're ebbing away at that. I think it's what is it, like the second or third year in a row that we've ebbed away at Big Three. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the craziest part is it's not even the amount of beer is staying the same. So in other words, the pie is growing, and we're taking more of that pie.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's it. That's awesome. I mean, that's our generation. I mean, I think that's indicative of what we kind of. It's exciting to be part of this. Anyways, it is now 9:23. We've been talking since 8. I want to say thank you very much to you. I want to say thank you very much to Night Shift Brewing. Um, uh, Through this site, I kind of try and highlight breweries that I have loved, the beers that I've had from the breweries. I've had a lot of different beers you guys have produced, and I got to say, I mean, they're just spot on. That's just why I kind of connected with you to do this, and so that's my endorsement of Night Shift. And when I put Night Shift out there on social media and things like that, the amount of excitement about having you on the site was also indicative of what you guys are doing, and from people all around the country. So I got to say, congratulations on that. I think I speak for the craft beer. Let's go with these again. Craft beer world. That's the theme of the fucking interview.
The quotes, yeah, finger quotes.
The theme of the interview is the bunny ears in slow mo. I think I speak for the craft beer world when I say, we're all very excited about what you guys are doing, and we can't wait to see what you guys have in store for us in the future. And then whenever you guys can figure out a way to self-distribute to Miami, I'd really appreciate that as well. I mean, it's not that far of a drive. If you really think about it.
Yeah, I guess when you really think about it.
You get a big enough car, You put enough beer.
We'll just load up the van. Yeah. One day straight, one day back, we'll be fine.
It's called maximizing your returns, man.
Yeah, it's true. Dude, thank you for having us on, man. And we from everyone at Night Shift, we thank you, we thank Craft Commander, we thank every single person who has ever taken a chance and bought one of our beers, and every single person who has gone back and taken a chance on us again and again and again and again and again, and everybody who has faith that what we're doing is something that's pushing the boundaries and something that they can believe in. And the fact that we're becoming a brand that people enjoy, much less the world class whatever. That's someone else's distinction. But everyone who supports what we're doing, we can't send enough love out for that. And especially the three guys here, on a personal note, taking a chance on a guy like me, bringing down to the brewing team. It's pretty awesome. So, yeah,
I think that's
thank everyone. Much love goes out from Night Shift.
All right, that's the moral of the story. Love, peace, beer, and
try hard.
Night Shift.
Yeah, and try hard. That's time.
Try hard and always shoot to be better. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks guys.